another edition of Players in the New School. Today I'm here with Bria Felicien, and she works for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Yes.
I was like, Constitute? There we go. All right. Now, of course, I know people in Atlanta like, really get it together. Yes, put some respect on her name. She is one of the upcoming journalists in the WNBA. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me. I already watched your show, so I'm just like feeling famous. Okay.
Girl, bye. I'm not about to play with you. But thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, ain't nothing like a Black woman tell you're doing a good job. You hear what I'm saying? Like, we all need that. But how are you doing in this quarantine, sis?
It's been rough. Being in a one bedroom, I think, and then also being in Decatur in Georgia, so I live downtown. So I have you can't walk outside without interacting with people that are not wearing a mask. And then where do you go? And so that being inside a lot has been hard for me. But for the most part, it's been terrible. But there's been a lot still, even when the world stopped, there's been a lot of basketball and women's sports news. So that's kind of been, even though we don't know when basketball is going to start, it's been fun to have news and drama.
Yes.
So
yes. And it's interesting, for the most part, it's so interesting. You would never know an actual sports league is happening right now because of the way certain major news organizations on TV like to cover sports. But it's been really interesting on this side of sports in terms of knowing women's sports is going on and it's thriving. Numbers are high. People are craving sports right now, and I think women's sports are going to benefit greatly from that. Even though I think we might feel very indifferent about sports actually happening right now, but it's still very interesting. It's still very positive in terms of what we've seen, and I'm just curious, what's that been like for you? Just kind of seeing women's sports and how people are reacting to it, and even the what's it called? I guess we call it the social justice behind everything that's happening right now.
I think my favorite thing about sports, no matter how we feel about it, women's sports coming back right now, there's two things. First is I love that players are feeling this is the most, a lot of people and players are included in that, felt comfortable to speak up. And I think that it's gonna change. We don't know how much everything's gonna change in the world, but I think that is my favorite part, that people are feeling like their voices matter. They feel because they always have, but actually feeling powered no matter what type of environment you're in. I think that's gonna be a big deal, especially in women's sports, how Sue Bird was talking about why women athletes feel always in the front of changes because they've always had to fight for themselves. And I think that with the increased visibility, I hope that leads to because I want everybody to be paid more. I think if fighting to get more visibility, to get better pay and better treatment, I think that is the most exciting thing. It's not even about the actual sports coming back. It's hopefully the change. And I've been watching the soccer games. I'm this stuff has been lit, but I think my favorite part is the stories and then the change.
Yes.
There's one team, Seattle Reign. Well, they're not Seattle Reign anymore. They're OL Reign. They rebranded 3 times, and a lot of the Black players were involved in a lot of the initiatives. And they had this really powerful video that I cried a little bit, but I think that has been my favorite part of feeling not only just saying things, but changing, creating action, and also loving to see WNBA fans watching the NWSL and then seeing Ari Chambers getting everybody on board. I'm that has been really fun too. The cross, because we're all gonna win when we all win. So
listen, again, you're here's the thing. For as much as certain people try to cancel Ari, and I'm not trying to make this about her, but for as many people try to cancel her, right? First of all, you're never gonna cancel my sis out. 2, you're about the third or fourth person who has randomly brought her up in one of my interviews. Now, that's impact. I always talk about impact, right? The sis, I don't even know. Like Ari has covered, was it basketball, soccer, softball's next, hockey. I know Eric is trying to get us into hockey now, and it's so interesting because people forget like we create the culture. And there's something about there's just something about us. We create the culture. Just appreciate and embrace it. That's all you really need to do. Don't be a hater all your life. So I'm just so able to appreciate, you know, us kind of coming together and like understanding one of us wins, we all win, and that mentality, and also understanding like, yes, we're all women, but Black women definitely suffer and have to deal with certain oppressions that the rest of them do not have to. And I'm glad that's finally being approached and, you know, head on in a way that we haven't seen before, because far too often it's always been kumbaya, we're all women. And it's like, yeah, but girl, like we're dying in hospitals at a rate that we should not be seeing. You know, so I mean, because I made a comment one day, I was like, I'm more afraid of hospitals than getting pulled over by the police. And that's real. And this has been my experience too. I'm basing this off of my experience. But again, like I said, I'm very appreciative to see us all, you know, getting on board, being on the same page. I think there's a lot of truth to that now. Going back to what you mentioned about soccer, you recently came out with a thread, which I thought was so dope. I was like, I gotta get her on the show. We gotta do a WNBA thread. You did a thread for the NWSL teams, and you basically let people know, hey, if each team was a R&B, was it artist or album?
It was album, but one person was an artist, or one team was an artist.
Okay. So you basically made a thread if they were R&B albums, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Again, culture. And I was like, y'all, if y'all have not seen it, please go check it out. Where can they find you on Twitter?
At Bria Felicien. Bria Felicien.
All right. Now go check it out. You already have something pinned, right? On your account.
Yes, that was pinned, but I need to create a thread of like my work, but now I have another story that people would like this pinned as well though. But I feel like no one else has done NWSL and R&B, so if you just search those two words.
This is very true. This is very true. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like I absolutely love this idea, because I was like, you know what? By the way, tell people who you, because by default, being like, there's, to me, outside of the University of Texas, which I'm not a fan of, you know, blame. I always tell people blame my dad. Like he did not put in the investment and the work, so I became a free agent. And I ended up going with Oklahoma and Tennessee as my college teams. But other than that, I'm all Texas teams all day. So Houston Dash, H-Town. And who did you pick as Houston's R&B album?
For the NWSL, I picked Summer Walker, Over It. And I feel like, so Houston has like a very, a fan base that feels like the league and everyone in it hates them, and the refs as well. And they were actually not really good at all last year. It was like kind of chaotic. So I picked Summer Walker's Over It, because in that album, she talks, basically, she's like tired of these dudes. She's tired of people playing with her. She is tired of everyone else playing with her. And I feel like that perfectly described the Dash. And I've thought about this for a while. I had thought about this for way too long. And yeah, that was the only album or the only team that I could easily identify like who their album would be, because of they have a very strong culture, and it's very strong like vibe, and this is the funniest thing ever.
But again, like I said, absolutely brilliant. Now, I asked her to come onto the show today and to do the same thing, but for WNBA teams. Now, y'all can argue in the comments. You can hit me up, hit us up on Twitter, and argue all you want to. But as of right now, we're we're gonna go ahead and just let her tell us who the teams are, what the albums are, and explain again. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the 2020 WNBA team albums.
So the first one, I'm gonna start with the Mystics, and I'm going to do pre-COVID opt-outs rosters. So post-free agency, post-drafts, because that's the easiest thing to do. The Mystics are still the Mystics. So I have 2 albums for them because they are just that good.
Not mad.
So the first one, and actually I would love any debate from you because this would be very funny. But for the same NWSL team, I was gonna do Sir's Chasing Summer, because that album is literally perfect. And Elena Deladon had a 50, 40, 90 season. And I just still, like, I remember when they came and played the Dream, that first blowout. And I just remember being like, oh my God. Even the finals, they were just so, it doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Mm-hmm. You know what? That's going to be the only, so good.
I'm not mad at that pick. I'm not mad at the pick because when that album first came out, it definitely was on repeat. It was so funny too because, you know, this is random. People found out like he was brothers to D Smoke. I'm like, they look exactly alike. How could y'all not put this together? That's a whole nother thing. But yes, totally agree. I think he's an absolute genius. But good pick.
So Phoenix, they've created what seems like a super team, but we don't know for sure. So, and there's the jokes about them being older. So I picked the older album.
Okay.
I was torn between Baduizm and Mama's Gun but I picked Baduizm because Mama's Gun was the perfect album, and Baduizm was like, it was really good. To me, it was like, I think everybody picks it as a classic, right? But Mama's Gun to me is like actually like a step higher and perfect. And I feel like we don't know for sure. Thought about this too much. We don't know for sure what they're gonna look like on the court. And there were some signs that people were like, I don't know why you did this. And I don't know why this is guaranteed. But that's why I picked a little bit of an older album, but I didn't go too old because I don't want to be disrespectful. and yeah, like I decided, you know, the near perfect to me, okay. This is my opinion. I don't debate music because I'm not a music writer, but I picked the near perfect album because I feel like they could be really good, but we don't actually know. And I'm not a big person on predictions because I don't know what's gonna happen. So for that reason, we picked Baduizm by Erykah Badu. Yeah, I didn't say Erykah Badu.
I'm curious, did you debate any other albums outside of Erykah Badu for the Phoenix?
Yes. So, Aaron Ray, dang, what's the name of the album? I just called him by his name.
Oh, Aaron Ray, yeah. It took me a minute to catch up, but yes, Aaron Ray.
Platinum Fire.
Yes.
Platinum Fire. But I was like, I had to go, the age outweighed, and I feel so mean, but the age outweighed, just because like they're older and they're experienced, and like Erykah is just like, to me, younger, like I'm younger, so to me, she's more like that aunt. So that's kind of why I went with that. Experienced aunt who has championship experience, so it's not even out of disrespect. So
thanks. No, you know what? I could see it now. I could actually see it now. And especially when you talk about the idea that, by the way, I hope I'm gonna see. I'm gonna let Felicia go ahead and make this thread at some point. I'm gonna make sure, like, when we drop this video, that she makes this thread so everybody knows what's what. But because some people, I'm pretty sure, have never heard any of these albums, and that's the beauty of what we're about to do and what we're about to bless y'all with. Okay, but I could totally see with Erykah Badu. Plus, can you imagine? I would love to see. I'm not gonna lie. I would love to see Erykah Badu sit down with like the three of them and just talk. Like the big three. Just her and Diana Taurasi alone.
Yes. Yes.
Would, like, my mind is already blown at the thought of them doing a podcast together. Just one episode.
Wait, is it Sue that has the podcast? Because if DT, yeah, that would be so.
Like, to me, Diana Taurasi is just, oh my gosh, that would be everything. Like, I would love to see her, Erykah Badu, sitting down with Skylar Dick. Because here's my thing, Brittany's always pretty chill. Plus, she's from Texas too. That's just how we roll. But with Skylar can come across as a bit uptight to a lot of people, and just, that's just her name. She's very intense. Like, that's just how she is. But I'd love to see her sitting down with Erykah Badu, Erykah throwing the sage around, and like, girl, can you imagine? Oh my God.
So awesome.
That would be absolutely brilliant. But yes, no, totally agree with you. Love it. Okay. You want to roll.
That's what I said. So my next one is the Aces. And for this one, it's a little bit like abstract, kind of like what I did with Utah, because basically, and this is pre-opt-out, so I don't know who's opting out, but like I'm thinking about Liz, and I was torn between two artists, but I've decided to go with Tinashe's, her EP, her first album.
Okay.
I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. Okay, so Tinashe's like first album, or her first solo independent album, was Songs for You, and it gives me that vibe. It's like that R&B electronic mix, and you can tell she's like finally like free. And that's kind of how I feel like about like Liz, Vegas, DJ, but also like freedom from Dallas, and freedom from Dallas, but also like, I don't know, that once that team got Liz, like that I think people argue about whether the semifinals with Washington and the Aces was better than the finals. I think both of them are great, but like that took them to the next level. I mean, she is awesome, but that she kind of reminds me of that. But like, how are you a good basketball player, a good DJ, and just like cool? That's what I love about WNBA players. Like, how are y'all just cool and good?
You know what I'm saying?
Like
they're frankly, they're better than the NBA in terms of, because I feel like they have this different freedom about themselves that for a long time the NBA has never had. I feel like maybe the past couple of years we've seen it on the NBA side, but man, let me tell you right now, especially in this social climate, these WNBA players are definitely pushing the needle forward. But even before that, because I remember, I will never stop talking about this, but when Liz was here, she was everything. I was like, I've never been so impressed with a player on and off the court. And there were times that I felt like possibly more could have been done off the court that you see now with Liz. It's very different. But mind you, too, her representation wasn't there either in terms of she's with IMG now. So, there's that factor. It's a huge factor, too. But I remember talking about Liz. This was like, I kept singing her praises, and it wasn't until she actually went to the All-Star weekend that now the national media got a hold of her, and they actually, people were seeing it. And after that, it blew up. Like, everybody was talking about Liz, and she really put her stamp on the All-Star weekend too. So I thought that made a huge difference going into the following last season. So I think that was a great pick. What I'm curious, you said you were debating another album with them?
Yes, so there's this artist, Abra. It's Abra, and she hasn't really released much music in the last like couple years, but she has that also that same like electronic like R&B mix vibe, which I really like, because Black women can like basically be in any genre. So like I think it's cool to like have the vocals mixed with like other things. But the reason I chose Tinashe was because of like that journey to independence and freedom. But yeah.
Love it. I love it. Okay. I ain't mad about that. Go ahead, girl.
This is what I love about covering the WNBA and covering women's sports in general. Like the nerds that we are and like the things that we think about. It's like I found community. And I realized we are normal. We are fine.
Okay.
When I get to the dream, it's gonna be so funny. But now we're gonna do the Liberty because we don't know, honestly, we don't know what they're gonna look like. I mean, they had 6 rookies, now they're gonna have 7. It's just like,
yeah.
So I just chose one of my favorite young artists, Umi, UMI, and you love Umi?
Yes, her new single is cute.
See, so I just chose that artist, and her let's see, her EP is called Introspection, and which kind of works because they're rebuilding. No Tina, a bunch of young players. Like we have no idea what they're gonna look like. So at least I think there's assumptions, but I think we just don't know what they're gonna look like. So that's why I chose.
I'm thinking, especially with the new coach, it's there's definitely a lot of question marks around that. But trust me, I already know. That's why I'm like cringing because knowing you hadn't touched Dallas yet. So I'm like, I already.
Okay, so yeah, the Liberty, I really don't know what to say about them because I don't know. It's weird to me though to not know. Like I'm just like, I don't know. I hate question marks. Let's start already.
I feel the beauty of it too, though. Like there's a beauty in not knowing, and like especially with such a high-profile first-round draft pick that everybody's been a selective have been talking about, because it's one of those things that it seems to me there's been a consensus that everybody's going to continue to talk about it, but she's not going to be Rookie of the Year. Which is the irony in a lot of it, just in terms of conversation I've been seeing. I could, hey, I don't mind being wrong, but doubt it.
But that's why we're talking about all like the diversity of coverage, because I think it's that contrast of like what players themselves are saying and then like what like coaches and all those things are saying versus like what people like want to happen is. I mean, I think if there's just more voices, it wouldn't be so dramatic and like drastic and annoying. I think.
It's very interesting off season, to say the least.
So yeah, that's right. Also, wild cards to me is the Fever. Like I feel like they made good choices, but they also Marion Stanley is like a veteran coach, but like the players themselves, it's like there's a lot of change too. Correct. So for them, first of all, camera, I don't know what this is. So for them, I went with Shea Butter Baby because I know it makes no sense. But so for that album, I was just like, okay, like it wasn't awful. Okay. It was not awful, but it was not my favorite. And I think that's how the Fever are going to be. Like, I don't think they're going to be the worst team. Okay. My logic is really like, it's my friends call it Bria logic. I don't think they're going to be the worst team. They had some hits. Okay. But like, there's it has hits and I can listen to it while I do other stuff, but it wasn't like my favorite. And I don't know, that's another team. I don't know if you can tell me more like about what you kind of can see from your experience, but like, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
I feel like they're, so I guess here's my thing with the number of, because I'm looking at the roster right now. We have, I don't know who opted out. I don't think anybody's opted out with their team. I think they might be better than a lot of people expect them to be compared to last season with so many, I shouldn't say with so many players opting out, but to me, they're bringing back, in terms of their veteran talent, they're bringing that back. And then they still very much have a young team in terms of the rookies that they have. They have 3 rookies. They have, was it 4 players? Was it 4 players with 2 years or less, right? But mind you, too, when you look at the type of talent that they have with those 2 years or less, you're talking about Kennedy Burke, who has been showing a ridiculous amount of, I think she's one of those that her talent is limitless and her potential is there. It's there. Lauren Cox, I feel like she probably won't. She's going to continue. I think her IQ is really going to be what sets her apart from the other rookies. And I've said this consistently about her day one. I was like, Lauren Cox, whoever gets Lauren Cox is going to definitely see improvement. And obviously to Tia McCowan, she's one of those.
I'm not forget my girl.
Don't sleep on T-Mac. She's coming. I mean, I feel like with her, she's the future of the franchise. If they decide to go that direction, she's definitely the future of the franchise. Because I could really see between future Fever, if they keep Kennedy Burke, LC, and T-Mac together, that core group, not to mention you got Kelsey Mitchell. I mean, they just brought back Victoria Vivians, so there's a lot of potential there with the Fever. It's gonna be a lot of fun watching them play. And keep in mind with what 22 games they're playing this year, if they're having to, the adjustment period is going to be quick. It's almost like playing summer. It's almost like going to summer school. You're going to have to adjust very quickly. But I mean, I'm not mad about it because, listen, you described Shea Butter Baby, first of all. One of my favorite albums, what was it? They came out last year?
It may have come out in 2018.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, but to me, at the same time, it's so much of a classic already. In its own right, it's so much of a classic because it literally speaks to the Black woman who is a millennial to the T. I mean, Ari Lennox is just,
she does. I feel like she speaks for us. When she says something, I'm like, I've been feeling like this for 2 years.
Shout out to
I love her.
Oh gosh, you gotta love her. I mean, I love that album though. I can't say enough about the album. So that's very interesting. I'm not that one. This one right here, I'm not sure if I'm sold on it or not. I'm gonna put an asterisk next to this one.
No, this is good though because I like what you said about all the perspectives. Because I mean, I've been watching Tia McCowan for a long time. It's so I'm well, also, and I used to cover the SEC, so naturally, I'm just her biggest fan. And then as soon as you reminded me of who she is, not thinking about the roster as a whole in comparison to everybody else, but thinking just specifically about who she is, I'm oh yeah. But yeah, I like this. See, this is why I like debate. I like debate.
Yes. I mean, in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what other I probably would have gone with, if we're basing just off albums, I would dare say that off the top of the head, either LA or I think I would have given it to either LA or Las Vegas. No, I would have gone with LA, Shea Butter Baby. But I'm curious. I'm not trying to flip it around on you, but I'm curious if you can give me LA's because I'm
No, this is perfect because I was actually gonna say "Woman" by Jill Scott for LA. And it's so funny because I was glad that I'm like, oh, let's transition because more that the auntie vibes. Like I know Chelsea Gray is actually very young, and I think I keep forgetting that because she's been doing so much at a young age. But like for pre-opt outs, because or I think they're for the most part they're still. I don't know. I'm just gonna go pre-opt out because it's like everything is kind of crazy. But like when Simone went to LA, I was like, oh my god. It took me a while to adjust because I've been like, we all know I love Simone, but that and then Candace and Chelsea Gray and Christy, who I think we have know by now has opted out, but like I can't remember who else did. That's why we're doing pre-opt outs, but they solid, like solid, and then Sykes in a new environment, and I don't know. I just think they are solid either way, pre-opt out, post-opt out. Like I think they're obviously better with Christy Tolliver, but like I was like, whoa, front office, like what are y'all doing?
You know what? You helped give me some perspective. I'm actually gonna go ahead and have to agree with you on Shea Butter Baby now that I think about it. I know it does not help with the debate that you wanted. The more that I think about it, and I think about the type of content that Indiana puts out, Shea Butter Baby makes sense now that I think about it. Because when you think about, at least for me, the demographic, specifically that demographic. Now I know that most of people still playing are millennials, like the older demographic playing in the WNBA, specifically LA, they're millennials. I'm not saying that the Fever aren't. But now that I think about it, yeah, this makes sense now. Because if you try to put this on LA, you end up running into, like I said, the auntie theory, right? And especially when you look at 14 years, 14, Simone Gus has been playing 14 years. Then you have, what was it? Candace Parker's on 12. Nneka's on 8.
Oh gosh, I love Nneka too. Yep.
Tierra Ruffin Pratt, she's on 7. Raquana Williams, 7. I mean, yeah, you got Auntie gang. You know what I'm saying? This makes sense. This makes a lot more sense. Jill Scott, I love it. I definitely love it because you really don't have like I would even give. I don't know which album I would give them in terms of if I were to change the album. I know it would be something by Tamia. Possibly Faith Evans. I would give them one of like, because I mean, at the end of the day, California is always just, you got the vibes going. Whereas like if this same roster was in Dallas, I would give them a Jill Scott. But because this is LA, off that alone,
That's a good point. That's a good point.
If you said what?
I kind of wish I would have thought of like a California artist for them because there's probably like somebody that actually like fits that to the T of like.
Yeah, it's hard to. You know what? And like as I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know too many artists that would fit that off the top of my head. I just can't think of too many R&B artists that are from California like that. But excuse me, like to me, I could even think of like, man, I don't know. I would probably say something like Kool and the Gang or something like that. Even with them, because I just like the way LA plays. I mean, you're going to get a winning season with them. They're likely going to be in the playoffs. You could even get, you know what? I go as far as to say they're Earth, Wind, and Fire type of team. I would go that far. I
like that. Oh, okay. I like that. This is like our best one yet. This is our best one yet.
My only stipulation with this is the coaching situation.
Yeah. Because when you're talking about championship, like experience or like quality, like that's not what I thought of. I thought of the people, the players.
I could understand that. But I think their off court things that they've struggled with over the past off season has definitely puts a lot of questions out there. But the product. But here's the only reason why I say the coaching situation, because when we saw what happened, what was in the playoffs last season with Derek Fisher benching Candace Parker, it's like I don't know if we can exclude the coach from this, at least in this particular situation, because I know there are other teams where, like, even with the Liberty, they have a new one. With Dallas, we don't, it's just not even gonna go there. But yeah, so
that's a good point.
Yeah. So
I like this. I'm just like, I'm excited and like so sad at the same time. It's just, I love being a WNBA fan.
So much drama.
So now we're on to the Storm. And I think we talked about this album earlier, Platinum Fire, because that album, first of all, Fire is like describing the Storm. I feel like, I don't know if you could tell me if I'm wrong about this, but like, I don't know if people talk about how good the Storm, like they're just so good. And I think they're so deep. And like the fact that they were able to go to, they didn't have Stewie or Sue Bird, and Jordan Canada is like so like I don't know. I was just very impressed with them, and I think everybody back like Fire, Platinum Fire, and that album is so good. That album might be like 2017. Still listen to it. I think it might be the first male. No, it's not, because Sir, but yeah, like I think just listen. They're so good.
Yes, Aaron Ray. I couldn't agree more. Aaron Ray is slept on. And that's why I'm like, I think people talk about the Storm a lot of times because, well, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I feel like a lot of times people talk about the Storm because of Sue Bird. And I guess it depends on who you're talking about. Because if you're talking about media and then you're talking about fans, it's almost like you have to consider the combination of the two. But I feel like at the end of the day, when it comes to the Storm, not enough can be said about the team in general. Like you said, they're deep. They'll be playing without their coach on the bench this season. He will not be on the sidelines coaching this season, but he vows to be as close with the team as he can, given his past health issues, which makes sense. But speaking more to Aaron Ray is slept on because I think because he's new. Whereas I feel like when it comes to Seattle, they're not new, right? The talent on that team is not new. What was the year that they won? I can't remember off the top of my head that they won the last championship. Was that
2018 or was it the one before that?
I want to say it's 2018. Sorry, I do not like y'all expect us to always have these numbers.
I know, I'm like
2018. So I think you still have a lot of that left with this team. And that's probably one of the reasons why I'm probably like, as much as I like Aaron Ray, I'm gonna have to disagree. And this one I wholeheartedly now I'm gonna have to disagree on.
Oh, tell me.
Now, because Aaron Ray is new. Aaron Ray is
okay.
Whereas, I could see maybe Aaron Ray for, I don't know. I could see Aaron Ray possibly fitting a what is it called? A fever type team where they have a lot of new players on the team, but they have a lot of veteran talent. Where he seems like he's a vet, right? Like he seems like he's a vet the way he puts out music and how all of it's a vibe. Like he doesn't seem disposable. I haven't seen all of his visuals, but like oftentimes people put out these visuals and it's very, at least from what I've seen from him, It's always very intricate, and it's you can appreciate the thought that was put into it. And I feel that way about the Fever. But when it comes to Seattle, I'm gonna have to go with Seattle. I'm gonna have to go with something like, oof. I almost said Anita Baker, but that's still an.
I almost did too. To be honest, I almost did too.
Really? Why? Yes. Tell me.
I think because of the that feeling of like experience of like that's what it was. But then I chose Aaron Ray because of like more of like the content. But that's so funny that we both. I love.
You found some people, boo. You found some people. I think it's hilarious. No, I think I'm trying to think who's out there right now that's like still kicking and still giving us like, you know what? Something is giving me Solange about them. Something about them is giving me Solange because like, it's almost like no matter how many times they change, they're still going to give you consistent wins.
I like this.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And they don't get as much praise as so many other teams have. It's almost like, you know, a lot of pack teams usually don't get a lot of love because they're playing so late or whatever the case may be. But when you look up and down their roster, you're like, oh, you know they're going to be in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. Like Sue Bird, Natasha Howard, Jewel Lloyd, obviously Stewie, Morgan, like their roster is ridiculous.
I like this a lot. That's actually perfect. Like, that's perfect because they. Well, so would we do Solange as like the person, or would we do Solange when I get home or a seat at the table?
Ooh, now see, that's where you lose me because I'm like, Solange is so ever changing that I'm like, I'd have to like really hone in on like which album, but it would not be Seat at the Table because I'm trying to think. I feel like Seat at the Table is definitely going to be reserved for another team that's been. I'm trying to think. Seat at the Table is giving me LA Sparks because they have been consistent about. Now, mind you, too, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the LA Sparks have this accessibility to a lot of media. So they're able to constantly get their message out, and you're able to see the constant Black girl magic that is LA Sparks. I mean, it's the entire league, but I feel like they put on very differently than everybody else.